everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. Today I thought I'd make something really easy and simple for dinner, and that's a meatloaf. It's really easy to put together. I have all the ingredients that I need right here, and it should be ready in about an hour. It doesn't really take that much prep. It's just the baking, but you toss it in the oven, and while the meatloaf is in the oven, you can make something else. So for the meatloaf, you really don't need that much. A lot of recipes vary. This is the way I like to make it. I love it. I think the glaze comes out really good, and the meatloaf is really moist. So what I like to use is 1 pound beef. This one is 90% lean, 10% fat, and I only have 1 pound. I'm cooking for 2, so of course there's going to be leftovers, but if you have a bigger family or if you're cooking for more people, just double things up. I have my Worcestershire sauce, which is always interesting to say, but I have my sauce here: garlic, yellow onion, green pepper. We're not gonna use all of this, of course. We only have 1 pound of meat, so we're gonna use about, I would say, 1/4 of the onion and about half the pepper. And we're going to use 2 cloves of the garlic. We also have some ketchup. It's a staple in meatloaf. We have a can of Campbell's tomato soup. We're not gonna use the entire can, of course, but this adds a nice touch to that glaze. Breadcrumbs, adobo for seasoning. I like to use adobo. I think it's better, but if you don't have adobo, you can recreate the adobo with the spices in your kitchen. So salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, oregano. I do have some dried oregano, and I'm going to add a little bit to the beef. And then garlic powder and onion powder, I always like to sprinkle a little bit more on my meat. I just think they really pack it with flavors. I am going to use 1 egg to bind all the meat with the ingredients together, and I'm also going to use a little bit of milk. But enough of me talking. I'm going to go ahead, chop my veggies, put my meat in my prep bowl, and I'm going to start putting the meatloaf together. Well, I'm ready to start cutting my onion and pepper, and before I forget, and you don't want to forget this step, turn your oven on. So I'm turning my oven to 350 degrees, and that can heat up while I cut my veggies and prep my meat. So the onion, you want to make sure that the pieces that you chop are small enough that they're going to cook fully through when the meatloaf is in the oven. Well, our meat is mixed, so now I'm going to go ahead and form or shape my loaf and place it in the baking pan. So I have a regular bread pan. This is an actual loaf pan, but I also have this glass cooking casserole, I would call it. If you don't have a bread pan, you can use one of these, but because I have the bread one, I'm going to use it. I feel like the meat holds its shape better in there when it's more contained. So I'm just going to grab my meat. If you really mixed it and just combined all of the ingredients, it shouldn't fall apart in your hands. So you should be able to, like I'm doing, shape the loaf in your hands. You can control how thick you want it so that you can mold it to the shape of your pan, really. So this is ready for the pan, and it really won't stick. It's going to release some of its natural juices, so it's gonna come right out of this pan when it's done in the oven. Now I'm going to quickly mix the glaze so that we can toss it over our loaf and we can put it in the oven. This is what our loaf looks like. It has a good shape, it's staying in there. I'm using 2 tablespoons light brown sugar. The sugar helps in the caramelizing of the glaze, but it also helps cut some of the bitterness that we get from the tomato because there is a lot of tomato in the glaze. We need a 1/4 cup of ketchup. I mean, is it really ketchup if it doesn't make that noise? That's how you know it's the real thing, and that I also might consume too much ketchup. And now finally, my special ingredient, the Campbell's tomato soup. I know other recipes use Campbell's tomato soup, but most of the recipes I've seen, because I'm always looking for variations, don't integrate Campbell's tomato soup with any other components of the glaze. And I like combining, just combining different ingredients and different flavors to see how it turns out, and I really enjoy this one. So we're adding 2 tablespoons of the Campbell's tomato soup, and now you're going to take your spoon and mix it all together. As you're mixing, of course, you can taste it. If you find that it's too sweet, too sour, too bitter, you feel like it's missing something, you can always add more to the glaze. I think it's good. It doesn't need anything else. I'm going to go over and pour it over my loaf. I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll pop it in the oven. Here we have it. Our meatloaf is ready for the oven. The glaze is holding up at the top very well. It's really not falling off, which is what we want. It's ready for the oven. It's gonna be in there for about 55 minutes. So I'll see you in 55. And we're back. It's been 55 minutes. The meatloaf is out of the oven. I let it rest for about 10 minutes. So now we're gonna go ahead, pull it out of the pan and plate it so you can see our final results. So I'm using 2 spatulas to pull the meatloaf out of the pan and letting it rest for 10 minutes really did the trick. It's not falling apart. It looks like a loaf. Here we have it, a meatloaf. It took 55 minutes in the oven, and about the 15 minutes it took me to prep all the ingredients and shape the loaf. So let me know if you tried the recipe, if you have any variations, anything extra that you'd like to add for a little bit of spice. And as always, like, follow, share if you enjoyed it.